The pages that I gave Matt are from Rumblestrip, which is my book, which is all about cars and people and how cars dominate our lives and our environment and how we deal with that. And it takes place all over the world, actually. But the pages that I gave him were pages that are set in London because, of course, that's where I live and grew up in South London. And actually, sometimes I kind of hate London, actually. I think there are lots of things that are wrong with it. But I also love it. And it's a very interesting place, and it's full of interesting people, interesting things. So that's why. I wouldn't really know how to quantify what things are London things and what things aren't, except that I suppose that we're all shaped by our environments and the fact that it's a busy place, it's full of interesting stuff, it's full of frustrating things. You're constantly coming across new things and interesting things all the time that you wouldn't see in other places. Yeah, locations are one of those things that suggest themselves to you continuously as you're walking around looking at things. When I was researching my book, A Bumblestrip, I spent quite a lot of time just looking at different kinds of intersections and interchanges to see how traffic behaved. And at one point I was doing some photographing of the Rotherhithe Tunnel because I saw an incident there, a road rage incident, which was both funny and really scary. So I wanted to document that in the book. While I was taking the photographs, which was late at night because I wanted it to be empty so there was no one around, so I was doing this probably about 11:30, 12 o'clock. A big van load of police pulled up and jumped out. There were at least like 6 of them, maybe more. And they were asking me, what are you doing taking photographs of this place? And I pulled out my cards and said, look, I'm a researcher and I'm researching this area. It's just for a book I'm working on. And they said, well, it looks a bit dodgy, photographing this tunnel. It could be, like terrorist activity or something. And I was going, well, obviously it's not. They said, well, just be warned that if you carry on, you'll be questioned about this, and we'll take your name and details right now, and we'll get back to you on it. So they did. Just doing their jobs, I guess. I like photographing the city anyway. I like drawing it because I'm fascinated by architecture and by the way that we use it and interact with it. And it's all around us, just looking out the window here, you can see the different juxtapositions of old and new, and the patterns they make and the style they look at. It's always fascinating. Right here, we're opposite Aldgate Tube Station, and I spend a lot of time just looking out the window, just looking at people walking in and out. I don't even know why that's interesting, actually. It's just people coming in and out. But for some reason, it's endlessly interesting. I really like the fact that you can't really predict what any given day is going to be like. I like the fact that people are endlessly diverse and endlessly interesting. And one of the things that you're doing when you're drawing people is you're always trying to think up new ways to depict people. What are they wearing? How are they dressed? What are they moving like? And it's amazing how quickly you kind of run out of ideas. And all you have to do is look out the window and there's someone wearing items of clothing that you wouldn't have thought of in a way that you wouldn't have thought of. So that's always endlessly interesting. I try to make comics that I think are going to be interesting to people outside of what I see of as the scene, because I think my job is to constantly try to make new things and attract new readers and try to make work which is accessible to anybody. I don't want to be part of a little group that just talks to itself. I want to be reaching out. So if I think of a term to define myself, that would just be that. It would just be searching. There is something, because comics is such a kind of immersive thing, it's like you kind of have to really believe and inhabit the characters that you're making. So it's very interior stuff, and you can get a bit nutty doing it by yourself. So it's good to have other people around when you're doing that. It's very hard, in fact it's almost impossible to edit yourself until your work is finished. So if you're making mistakes, you never see them until afterwards. So it's very good to have someone around to say, did you know you're doing that? Or why don't you do this? To point things out that you haven't noticed. And I'm constantly seeing other people doing stuff and thinking, that's a great idea. What about if you did this? What about if you did that? So it's what my friends are doing. It's what people coming up with interesting ideas are doing. There's a constant flow of great ideas and great work coming, not just in comics as well, just in all media. Because it's all just narrative and storytelling. So ideas just don't just come from one small area. They come from all over the place. I find it constantly inspiring to be walking around, looking at things. In fact, I do that a lot. Bridget and I just spend lots of time just walking around, just seeing what's out there. Just haven't been down that street before, let's go down there, let's have a look. let's see what's down there. And we really enjoy that. We really just enjoy exploring the city all the time, coming across unexpected, interesting, weird, surprising things. I don't think that many other cities that I've been to have as much of that kind of charge of unexpected weirdness that London has. I think some of that is dying, actually, because of the way that developers are destroying the city as a place of wonder and just making it into a machine for money. So it's becoming more generic all the time.